didn't want Comrade Bongani to bully me with time because I was unsettled looking at him at the back there. Ordinarily, we would start by thanking the organizers, the people who've put together this very important conversation this afternoon. But we are not going to do that today because I believe it is not only our duty to be here, gathered this afternoon, but it is what the lifeless bodies of the children of Palestine and Gaza are calling for. So perhaps in honor of their silence, I wish to thank all of you for coming. And I also wish to encourage those of you who are here to take the messages back to your homes, because the propaganda machine is very strong. The dominant narrative is winning, especially in communities that don't have access to social media and television. Some of the interesting concepts that came this afternoon: killability and livability, horror and hope, loss and resistance, all speak to a history that we in occupied Tanzania have known too well. 30 years is not a long time to forget the atrocities of apartheid. And yet, we are here today to ask the following questions. What kind of questions emerge when we start challenging dominant narratives that are founded on the logics of elimination, maiming, killing, and genocides? What kind of worlds emerge when we question the dominant configuration of the colonial state as we know it today? What forms of political community begin to surface when we problematize the colonial state and its entanglement with genocide? These are some of the questions that should shape, inform our solidarity with the people of Palestine. As a people who've lived through settler colonialism and its remnants, we cannot move forward without prefacing these questions. We in South Africa know that genocide, colonial violence are the central ingredients of the modern state. Genocide is in the DNA of the colonial state, and therefore, what does it mean to free Palestine? What did it mean to free South Africa pre-1994? Did it mean a disruption to the colonial state as a primary form of political community? Perhaps the people of the Herero and the Nama in Namibia would tell us different. The people of Abiyala, the native people of Abiyala, would tell us different. The native people of Australia would also tell us a different truth, because after we have bled, after we have buried our children, after we have buried our loved ones, it is the state that comes to cleanse itself as the ethical political community. And so everything continues. At the center of the nation state is the normalization of death. And so when we hear the stories of the children who were killed before they see the sunrise, when we see their lifeless bodies on our screens, we are not moved because we become numb. We have been numbed by the politics of the state and its normalization of death as a way of life. Death doesn't longer surprise us. It scares us only briefly, because the dominant paradigm of death is the dominant paradigm of the state. The two are hard to separate sometimes. Professor Ala, or Ellen, you speak about grieving for land and loss, a theme that is very familiar to us in occupied Tanzania. I wish to also inform you that grieving for land, or rather grieving for the loss of land, is not grief that will end when you've achieved your freedom. It is a grief that will live with you and continue to haunt your ancestors because it is a grief that will be reclaimed by the nation states in its project of remaking itself and further dehumanizing futures. It is the settler colonial script. The settler colonial script of Israel is not a new one. What we then need to do is to ask ourselves, what is it that we are failing to learn as its victims? I know I have 4 minutes, so I'm just going to rush. When we center Gaza today, and thanks to you, Professor Nadera, we also center Haiti, we also center Sudan, the Congo, the Yemen, all products of the colonial state and its genocidal structural forms. But when we talk about livability, we inspire hope, we also inspire radical love and radical truth. We also encourage a way of not looking away when we see the dead bodies on the screens, but looking into and seeing the lives in the death of the people of Gaza. Because if we continue to see the death, we are therefore celebrating the victory of the Israelites, of the Israeli state. Looking away at the images is a form of livability that we should reclaim in solidarity with the people of Palestine. And so when you speak about the notion of Ashala, I hope I pronounce it correctly, you invoke the memory of Solomon Kalushi Mahlangu, who, before he was sentenced to death, again by the apartheid state, which continues to live alongside the democratic state, but that's a conversation for another day. Solomon Mahlangu says his final words to us: "My blood will nourish the tree that will bear the fruits of freedom." He brings together the element of nature and the element of blood and the body to inspire hope, and perhaps to also say to you that your suffering will never be in vain. Your blood, the bones that are buried under the rebels, will one day speak truth to power. Isolate.